origins of psychological warfare were in Nazi Germany, and in the Nazi ideology, they had something that was called Weltanschauungskrieg, which means worldview warfare. The idea for them was imposing the Nazi worldview on the countries that they had occupied. The Americans picked up this idea, created an American version of it, and called that psychological warfare.
Have secret experiments been carried out on ordinary, unsuspecting people by government scientists who are trying to develop a terrifying new weapon? A weapon to control the human mind.
The CIA had a program in the 50s and 60s in which they, used drugs and hypnosis and other technologies in an effort to create the perfect agent in the field, someone who could be controlled, possibly to even commit assassinations robotically.
In the wake of World War II, the U.S. government is engaged in a large number of secret medical experiments designed to help win the Cold War. Developing techniques for mind control to create a so-called Manchurian candidate. What is the extent of these brainwashing experiments? How did the CIA become involved in such far-reaching and disturbing research?
We know there are official papers on various other experiments back in the Cold War conducted by the CIA when they used drugs and all kinds of stuff on people, looking for truth serums, things that would bend people's consciousness. They gave people LSD, they gave people all kinds of strange things. So the notion that the CIA would investigate ways of bending your brain wasn't startling.
The new goal is to cause an individual to become subservient to an imposed control, to the point where he will perform acts against his will and then have no memory of the act.
Psychological warriors are bringing cutting-edge technology to a more insidious weapon: propaganda.
We're moving toward third wave modes of warfare, which apply information, knowledge, intelligence, strategy, deception, media, the use of the media for managing the perception, the adversary's perception of the battle.
Your only safety is across the border. Where the bombing and starvation.
They call it psychological operations, or PSYOPs.
I believe I've been targeted with microwave weapons. Also, I've discovered that a lot of my clothing and possessions there's been toxins placed in them. And I couldn't tell you exactly the technology they're using on me. They might use a satellite, or they might have somebody in a building, across the street.
Woody Norris creates and develops the spyware that winds up on the open market for anyone who can afford it.
All right, I can put a sound in your head. You'll hear it, no one else will.
No one else will.
This is called hypersonic sound. Instead of coming out of here like a speaker, the sound is made in the air. And because it's made in the air, it's made right next to your ear. And so it's intimate to you. Want to see it?
Yeah.
Turn on my CD player.
Okay.
Hear that?
Yep.
How about this? I'm speaking inside of your head.
What would this be used for?
Someone's passing through a security line, and you want to determine if they're a suspect. So you can whisper to them. No one else will hear it.
That could drive you crazy, couldn't it?
Yes.
That, to me, is Big Brother at its finest.
John Allman has been hearing voices in his head for years.
It's not actually happening at the moment. It's been terribly quiet the past few days. I don't honestly think the perpetrators of this really know quite how to deal with one of their victims getting on telly.
John believes this experiment proves that it is possible to transmit sound and words so that they are heard inside the target's head. As long ago as the 60s, a scientist named Delgado was able to stop a charging bull in its tracks using a radio-controlled implant in its brain.
The device we've got here is a crude commercial device. We can be sure the military could construct one which was far more pinpoint accurate. You know, so that you could have two people sitting in this church and one targeted and one next either side of them not hearing the voices.
It might seem laughably unlikely if it weren't for the fact that mind control technology exists and has been used for years.
It's not a theory, it is fact. It went into overdrive after the Korean War, when POWs were returned who had been tortured by the Chinese. They seemed apparently normal and functioned normally, but then it became apparent that they had become Chinese agents, that they had been brainwashed and programmed.
Cameron then plays tape-recorded messages through helmets that are locked to his patients' heads. This psychic driving forces them to listen to repetitive statements for weeks on end to program in new behavior.
Now, the final phase was to try to wipe out all recollection of what had happened, and that was accomplished by putting people to sleep for 30, 40 days, accompanied by different kinds of cocktails of drugs. Now, that's not any kind of therapy. That's a brainwashing experiment.
The way a people fight is closely related to the way they make wealth. And when you had the industrialization of the economy, when we went from peasant labor to mass production, you also got mass destruction. What is happening now is the introduction of third wave warfare, in which knowledge, information superiority is the key to victory.